Red 4, Ryan Morales with Vice President Miles Walker. Where's Miles? There he is. From Black 1, presidential candidate Jonah Clark with his running mate Michael Bailey.
Hey, Michael.
Right. And I'm going to give the podium over to Mr. Morales.
Good morning, everyone. I'm just going to take this morning introduction to thank everyone. You all look lovely this morning, especially Miss Thurman. You look beautiful, as always. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Ryan Morales, presidential candidate, and I would like to take a moment to thank everyone in the whole entire school for participating, for looking at the posters, for watching the Digital Devil, which is important in this school. And yes, I'd like to thank David Kirk for being here, filming this, and good luck to my candidate, and I hope you guys have a great time watching this debate.
Candidate Clark.
Good morning. No, it's awful early for some of us, but it's all good. I'd like to start off, not unlike Ryan, by thanking Owensboro High School, Lori Thurman, various students around here, specifically the ones from the Black 1 class. I know we worked really hard for this, so thank you guys, and let's have a good, clean debate.
Okay. Well, I've decided that we're going to focus this debate on domestic policy. The things that affect us here at home seem to be what are on the minds of Americans at this time. And we're going to start with the biggest issue, and that is our economy. The current national debt has exponentially increased. Additionally, the individual burden is now almost $40,000 per American. What do you propose to do to get the debt under control, but to also make sure that in cutting back or doing whatever you propose, that we don't lose American jobs, that we don't lose confidence in some of the programs that our government provides? What is the Clark-Bailey plan to take care of the deficit?
Well, over the past week or so, I've gone into researching things that, in particular, cost America quite a bit of money. A big thing is defense spending, and just by simply cutting the nuclear arsenal by, I think, a little bit over half, you save America nearly $19 billion by 2030. So that's a good place to start. You have reducing the size of the Navy and the Air Force, which saves yet again another $19 billion. Foreign aid, cut that by a fourth, and you saved $8.5 billion for the American people. We're currently involved in 2 different wars, one in Afghanistan and one in Iraq. We're looking to pull out of those soon, I know. But if we're out by 2016, we've saved roughly $51 billion in defense spending and all that stuff. More domestic ways to look at it to cut the deficit would be you could look into malpractice reform, which is you could broaden the term malpractice so that doctors who, when a patient comes in and say that they have like a cold or something, and a doctor's like, well, we're going to have to check, we're going to have to go for a CT scan, we're going to have to go for all this stuff, that costs the taxpayers a lot of money because that's a lot of extra things that they're going to have to do. So if we were to broaden the term malpractice, you could cut all of those extra little expenditures and save roughly $13 billion by 2030. You could also look into raising the retirement age to 70, which is $247 billion by 2030, and returning taxes to Clinton-level eras and allowing the Bush tax cuts to expire for income above $250,000 a year.
Candidate Morales.
Hello again. About our economy. All of us have been affected by our economy, whether you're from the lower class, middle class, or higher class. Recently, I have been struggling with my family to make it the best that we can, and I believe the main focus to improve our economy is by having a 1% tax increase on the upper class, keeping the tax on the middle class and keeping the tax on the lower class at its rate right now. One of our main objectives for this campaign, and one of the biggest criticisms from, I think, the older generation, is from the legalization of marijuana. It is for the economic purposes only, where you're going to only use the medicinal and recreational use of, not the recreational use of marijuana, but only medicinal use of marijuana, and we're going to tax it. The plant will be taxed 25% from the grower to the refinement facilities, 25% of the refinement facilities to commercial sales institutes, and 25% of the sales institutes to the consumer. American citizens have expressed their desire to legalize this substance, and we have agreed to meet their demands at the conditions that we establish. I do agree on the fact that the opposing candidate, Jonah Clark, has said about the defense cuts, and I do agree on that part, but not to where that much. I still believe that we should support a strong defense against other nations also. We have been the world's greatest and strongest nation, and we'll keep it that way.
Your time's expired for that. When I put my hand in the air, guys, it's 5 seconds remaining. So we'll move on to something that's close to home for a lot of us, and that's education. The United States constantly is ranked below other countries, especially in math and science. The federal government has used several programs like No Child Left Behind to try to bring us up to the level of the rest of the world. I'd like to hear your perspective. What is the role of the federal government in improving education, and what would your administration do to help students get what they need to be successful after high school, after college?
All right, well, the Morales and Walker campaign considers education one of the most, if not the most, important aspects of our country and in this whole entire world. We are the generation that's coming up next. We will possibly influence and hopefully rule the world, my hopes, pretty soon. But yeah, the education in my mind, in our campaign's mind, is one of the most important aspects. Here are some quotes from important people in our school. If I could change anything about the current education system, it would be the requirements for special needs students. Special needs students, they shouldn't be held up to our standards. They should have a realistic goal and standard. The ACT isn't a gauge of intelligence. It's a gauge of testing ability. We need to find another way to test these kids' college readiness for before third graders start taking the ACT every month and the inflation catches up with us. That is a quote from Steve Bedingfield. I completely agree on that. We are teaching students to a test. That is not preparing them for the actual world. That's just for a test. We need to prepare their minds to critically think. And yes, that is our status on education. Thank you.
Candidate Clark?
Well, I don't have a desire to take over the world like my opponent, but I do think that education reform is a big part of what an executive office has to do. I think that the fact that America is 18th in math, 15th in reading, and 14th in science is appalling. I think that from my position as president, it would be most likely easiest for me to affect America's students by not going for testing or anything like that, but who teaches them. I think that if we were to set in motion some form of legislation that makes it available for teachers who maybe don't feel prepared to teach certain students certain things, we can get them the training needed to make sure that our kids have the best learning possible.
Okay. Candidate Clark, we've discussed this to great length in class. I know that you all have very strong opinions about this, But one of the big issues, especially for the current presidential administration, is health care reform. Obamacare was criticized during the campaign. Some people say it doesn't go far enough. We still have Americans that have to declare bankruptcy because of medical expenses. We have millions of Americans that are still uninsured. We have people that, do not have, that have to go to the ER because they don't have health insurance to go to a regular family practice doctor. What would you all do as candidates? What is your vision for the role of government in taking care of the healthcare crisis here?
Well, I think if there are Americans who can't afford their own health care, who can't afford to keep themselves healthy and well to see the advancement of our country, I think that that's where government steps in, and we need to help in any way we can that can ensure that America survives long enough to see. I kept going, I should stop. Yeah.
Okay. Janet Morales.
Right now, people's standards of healthy aren't that great, and people think that 100 years old is pretty old. I believe 100 years old is pretty old, but our standard should be higher than that. 100 years old shouldn't be old; it should be young. Our because of our healthcare, we need to grow our healthcare. I believe that we should support the medical bills, because when you have healthy people, they can work, they can find jobs. Welfare completely out of the way because you can work. If you're healthy, you can work. So if you're working, you get insurance, and I believe healthcare is great, and we should fund it. Thank you.
Okay. Candidate Morales. It is common knowledge that a woman makes 78 cents for every man's dollar. Women still, although they're making gains even in the political arena, still there are fewer female CEOs, fewer female senators, representatives. Even though there's been progress even on the Supreme Court, still more men on the Supreme Court than women, even though we make up 52% of the population. What would your administration do to make sure that women were treated equally? And how would you address the inequalities in the workforce?
Well, let's look at women. All right. I love my mother, and I see her every day, and I love her to death. I'll do anything for her. Women are an important part of our society. They have given all of us. We've had mothers and fathers, and I believe women are essential to eliminate the inequalities of women in the workforce. We would probably just take out the check male or female box and then look at the applications from there. We would look at solely on the basis of their academic achievement, their education, their experience. In Congress, we should support our women. We should not have gender discrimination. Women are important, and yes.
Okay. Candidate Clark.
Let me look through this real quick. Let's see. Okay. Thank you. I don't think there's any kind of legislation you can put through that can immediately get rid of inequality, but I think that the main part is changing the minds of the people in America. And the easiest way to do that would be to show them women who are strong and powerful and that seem like they can, well, okay, not seem, but actually can get things done. So I think I would make it a large portion of my administration to appoint women to major political positions. Yeah.
I want to do a follow-up on this question. There has been legislation proposed for equal rights. It was called the Equal Rights Amendment in the 1970s, and it did not pass in the states. Would your administration support an equal rights amendment that makes this type of financial discrimination illegal. And I would like to also ask, neither of you chose a running mate that was a female. And I'm curious if, as you said, you would appoint women in your I guess a cabinet, I can't talk, cabinet, or like for the EPA or for the Supreme Court, then why was there not a woman worthy to be your vice president? And would you support the Equal Rights Amendment?
Well, depending on what is specifically in the legislation of the Equal Rights Amendment, I would be happy to support anything like that. But as to why I didn't pick a female for my vice presidency, there's no real answer for that one.
AOK Club is meeting in room 134.
Candidate Morales?
AOK Club is meeting in room 134.
Also impending on the regulations on the equal rights legislation, I would also support that. I do believe women are important, as I said earlier. But for the basis of the female vice president candidate, we had very well trained, very well appreciated women that could have been the vice president, but we voted as a group, as a democracy, because a nation is a democracy, on who could be our vice president. And I believed any one of the girls, and Miles, any one of us in the Red 4 government class could have been great leaders for the presidential candidate, and especially women. They are lovely, they're beautiful, they keep America beautiful, and yes, thank you.
I'd like to get your thoughts on another pretty controversial topic. What is your platform in regards to same-sex rights? Are you supportive of gay marriage, civil unions? Are you for the rights of inheritance, the rights of medical decisions? This is a topic that your generation is going to really tackle. And I'm curious to see how you view the federal government's role in dealing with this. Is it a state issue? Is it a federal issue? Is it a human rights issue? How do the Morales and Clark teams feel about that?
Well, the Morales and Clark think that this is a very controversial issue. Morales and Walker, I'm sorry. Anyway, Morales and Walker campaign think that this is a very controversial issue, and we're not afraid to tackle this. We believe, and as we put in the posters, gay marriage should be a right. They should have it, and they shouldn't be discriminated against it. For inheritance, we believe that the partner should have it. You cannot say that your partner who you've loved should not get your inheritance because he's of the same sex. I believe that if you're of the same sex and if you love each other, you should have the right to marry each other.
Okay. Candidate Clark?
In my view, people are people, and people have a right to marry other people. It doesn't matter if you're a man and a woman, if you're a woman and a woman, or a man and a man. As long as you don't try to marry a dog, I'm fine with it. So that's basically where I stand.
Okay. I have really just one final question for you, Candidate Clark. You're up. I want you to tell us and tell the students of Owensboro High School what differentiates you from your opponent. What would be different about a Clark Bailey America versus a Morales Walker America?
Well, a Clark Bailey America would probably have quite a bit bigger selection of Cheetos in stores because, of course, they proposed the legalization of marijuana, which our campaign thinks is a rather brash and stupid idea. It's dangerous. It's a very unhealthy drug. And I'd say that's the main point where our two campaigns kind of differentiate, is right there. Everything else, though, we're kind of the same.
Okay. Candidate Morales?
On response to that, I believe that we should legalize marijuana to eliminate majority of the dangerous drug dealers, because as you see from the prohibition, as they took away the right to have alcohol, crime rates did go up, and I believe that marijuana use would reflect that history. And from the difference between our candidates and our campaigns, I believe me and Walker are the strongest candidates. We work hard. We try hard in everything we do. We're successful and we're still humble. We do everything we can do for you, and we lose sleep for you, okay? We love you guys, and we'll do anything for you, for America. We will make America the best America it can be.
Thank you. It is time for your closing remarks. Since candidate Morales, you went first in the opening, candidate Clark will get the first closing statements. You will have 2 minutes. This is your last opportunity, no pressure, to convince the voters why they should vote for you.
It's been a hard-fought race, and I know a lot of us have put time and effort, blood, sweat, and tears into this. But in the end, what do you want from a candidate? Do you want a kid who is the top 1% of OHS? Do you want a kid who, in the eyes of almost everybody, is perfect? Is the ideal person? Or do you want somebody who is like you? Do you want somebody who has flaws? Who maybe necessarily is not the greatest person to the teachers, but most people see him as a pretty good guy. Ryan is not a bad person, but he doesn't represent you. If you were to look at the two candidates to see who best represents what OHS is and what OHS is about, I think it's clear that those candidates are Jonah Clark and Michael Bailey. Thank you.
Candidate Morales.
Thank you, Jonah Clark. That was a beautiful speech. And I'd like to say that not that I am perfect, it's just that I try to do my best in everything. All right. I came to America from the Philippines when I was 2 years old, and ever since then, I have been dreaming. I've dreamed of curing cancer, saving the world, and being possibly a Backstreet Boy. I still hold all those dreams dear to my heart, but now, biggest of all, I have a dream for America. I dream of an America where gay marriage as well as abortion is illegal and personal choice rather than a governmental concern. I dream of an America where every child receives a quality education, where special needs students are held to realistic standards, and where standardized tests are no longer the only gauge of a student's future success. I dream of a clean America, a green America, an America we can leave behind to the future generations. I dream of a growing economy, of a growing middle and lower class, and of a taxation system that fairly reflects wealth. I dream of an America. The things I'm talking about may seem unreachable, they may seem improbable, but nobody knows more about making them possible than Miles, Walker, and I. It's true, these are just dreams, but everything that is now a reality was once just a dream. And from cross-country meets to football games to long nights of AP homework, Miles, Walker, and I know about determination. We know about endurance, and together we can bring the American dream to you. Thank you very much, and I hope to have your support this election.
Nice job, Nice job. I want to remind you that the only campaigning that's allowed the next 2 days is verbal campaigning. No more signs, no more giving things, but word of mouth campaigning is still allowed. Tomorrow afternoon we will know who won this race. It is very close from unofficial polling right now, based on conversations with teachers. Keep in mind you've got to win the electoral vote. Just like the real presidency, it's the classes that you win that are going to determine who is the winner tomorrow. Nice job, and if the campaigns need to get together to talk about your strategy for the next 2 days, this would be an excellent time for you to do that. Thank you, guys.
Hey, Thurman,